Welcome to the Wealth and Purpose podcast, where people who are led by their hearts come to learn the secrets to creating wealth in a way that feels really good and live their purpose fully in the process. I'm your host, Patty Lennon. I'm an ex-type A corporate banker turned intuitive business coach. I'm also a wife, a mom to 2 preteens, a professor, Girl Scout leader, and well, hey, you get it. Like you, I wear a lot of hats. Whether you're looking for inspiration to get started or strategies to get growing, I am here to help you create abundance in every area of your life and business. Welcome. Hey, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Wealth and Purpose podcast. I am so happy to introduce you to my friend Carolyn today. She is my guest. She's also one of my biz besties, and she brings to the table a wealth of knowledge, and that's reason enough to have her on the podcast. But the real reason I wanted her to come and talk is because her life journey has brought her to a place where she's grounded herself in some really solid wisdom that's particularly pertinent for where we are right now. Now, she is a strategic thought partner. She does primarily work with upper 6 and 7-figure entrepreneurs, but I think what she has to share is going to resonate with you no matter where you are on your journey, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're working in corporate, looking for a job, at home, raising your kids, raising your husband, raising your wife, whatever it is. And here's what it is. Carolyn just put out a post, and actually I had wanted to have her on for the same reason, but she just put it in words so beautifully the other day where she said, stop worrying about hustling so much. Sometimes you need to focus on regenerating. And so if you're in this pause, you're not doing something that's less than, you're not lazy, I'm going to let her talk to it because she said so much more beautifully than me. You're regenerating. And that is such an important message. And I needed to hear it when she posted it. And I know most likely you need to hear it too. But before I bring her on, I want to tell you a story about Carolyn in my life, because I think so often we see these big, beautiful websites, these powerful brands, these women and men out there, leaders, and we think we understand who they are and we see them as a certain way. And so this story, I hope, will give you a flavor to who Carolyn is in her heart. So I'll probably start crying before I even finish this. So as you guys know, I've mentioned it a few times. I launched a conference right after my mom died, and I just had started to get to know Carolyn through a networking group. And she came to my conference, and it was a really hard, beautiful, amazing, powerful day. But it was hard because my mom wasn't there. And at the end of the day, she slipped me a card, Carolyn did. And as you guys know, financially, it was a very stressful time. We put a lot of money into the conference. My husband still wasn't working, or I think he had just started back to work. And when I got in the car to drive home and I opened up the card, there was a beautiful message inside. And the words that Carolyn used would have been exactly the words my mom used. And so she was a conduit of that message. And inside was a check for $500. And it was the most beautiful check I've ever received because it came with such grace and graciousness. And in the card, Carolyn had said, I've made it a habit of gifting to women who, and I don't remember what word to use, but it was essentially get out there and spread their love and do their work in the world. And, you know, Carolyn and I were not close friends at that time. She did that purely as a basis for how she lives her life. And so with that, Carolyn, welcome.
I still love your reaction to that. And you got through it without crying, Patty.
I know. Probably the first time.
Wow. That's so good. We love your tears, though. Those are good, too.
Thank you. Thank you. So I kind of put it out there already, what that beautiful message is that you have for everyone. But why don't we take a step back and talk about what has this COVIDian life we've been living been like for you, both as a person and then as a person that serves other people, like as supporting your clients along the way?
Yes. Well, I live in Manhattan, Upper West Side of New York. And so from a personal perspective, I thought I was just going to be staying with my favorite Irishman in Yonkers for a couple weeks. And that was that. And I ended up staying with him for a few months instead because the city felt like such a grim place, except at 7 o'clock when people would, clap and ring bells and honk bugles. You don't honk bugles. What do you do with bugles? Blow on
Whatever
bugles.
it is you do with them,
Whatever
you
it
did
is to
that.
celebrate. Yeah. Yep, to celebrate the essential workers. But other than that, it was really grim. The streets were empty. It just felt unsafe and uncertain. And so I was very grateful to have someone I love and be able to stay with him. And I've been through, and he owns a contract. He's a contractor. So he does a lot of high end residential and commercial business only in Manhattan. And so he also was home. And it was really interesting because for him, it was a list of what can I do at the house to spruce it up. Thank goodness he's a contractor and, has all sorts of projects he could do on this house. For me, I'm like, I got to help. Like, I've got to help people. And so initially, I was just on the phone constantly with my clients, and we had nobody was panicking. We were having so much fun and looking at ways they could adapt and pivot to serve their communities. And I loved being that strategic thought partner for them. I'm like the business partner you don't have to split profits with. That's like what I do for people. And so it was really, really fun. So here I am in a really loving relationship and lots of space and feeling very safe. And then the business side, I just felt very on purpose, very clear. And I knew immediately, I'm like, I have got to just help the clients I've got, but also let people know that I can help them with something that that I typically only do for longer term clients, people I'm going to be working with. I say longer term, 3 to 6 months. And I thought, you know what, I really just need to help people figure out like what they can do to pivot and start generating revenue immediately if things went away or they just felt disconnected message wise. And so I'm working like a dog. He wants to play like a puppy. And so that was kind of my life. That was my COVIDian life. And I've been in business almost 18 years. And so I've been through lots of downturns. I didn't panic. I was just like, oh, here we go. I wonder, I didn't expect it to last as long as it has, but I didn't thankfully get into any moments of panic. So I feel like I was very fortunate to be in the position I was in.
Yeah. Yeah. Because not everyone's there, right?
No.
I guess technically people have some choice to panic or not panic, but depending on what is happening in your life, that can be more real or less realistic than for others. Do you feel like there's stuff that has happened to you through the course of your life that readied you to be present and calm and grounded in the time that we're in?
I think it really is just the fact that I have had so many dry spells in my business and I've always gotten through them. I've always found a way through or out. And so I'm just like, okay, I'm going to spend less time panicking, even if things get slow. And they did get slow. And I'm just like, I'm just not going to panic. I'm going to so we've all been through, many different life and world events, 9/11, that I started my business. Did I start my business a year before 9/11? I can't remember. Or was it the year of 9/11? I think it was the year before 9/11. I'm terrible with dates. And so I think it really was that. Plus, I've really tried to maintain this mantra, and I have not always held to it over the years. you've witnessed me freak the hell out around certain things in life. But when I remember that worrying does no good, all it does is create discomfort and a scenario that may never happen. And so stop worrying. Just like sit back, show up, not sit back, but show up and trust. So I've been through it many times, but I'll tell you really specifically, and most recently was a year ago. My favorite Irishman was in the hospital for a couple of weeks, and it really threw me off my game. It happened when I was living in Barcelona, staying in Barcelona for a month. And I ended up coming back a little earlier because of him going into the hospital. Spent, a couple of weeks going back and forth. And so I was just really unsettled for about a month and a half. And then when he got out of the hospital, I felt like I was walking on eggshells and I couldn't focus on my business. And I hadn't been for 6 weeks already. And all I wanted to do was just I didn't know what to do with myself. And I finally started being really gentle with myself and saying, you know what, if I just need to veg, if all day and I only get one thing done, that's okay. I'm not going to judge it. And I went through most of the summer. It started off where I was very judgy with myself because I really needed that break, but I didn't think I deserved it. I knew I had to get back to work, and you got to push and you got to hustle, and you haven't been working for so long, Carolyn, and just been out playing and caretaking and whatever. And when I let go of that story, because it was total bullshit, I was just like, all right, take the nap, take the walk, go to the museum, just whatever I was inspired to do, I let myself do. Then I started only doing things I loved, started inviting people over, just people, fellow business owners onto my patio and doing little lunches or happy hours and connecting people. And as soon as that energy started showing up in my life, which it showed up, but I also created it, everything changed. And it wasn't like I directly started getting clients from that. That wasn't the point. The point was I am a people person. And so what can I do to create energy in my life for and with other people? And it just changed. It just I ended up having the most amazing final 4 months of the year that I didn't expect. And so it was such a recent experience too. There was no downturn. There was no world event. It was just what was happening in my world. And as soon as I let go of the judgment and really focused in on what charges me up, it all came together.
I love that story, the way you just told it, because it does apply, I think, so much to what people are feeling right now. Is so many people feel like they didn't get enough done when they were in isolation or whatever it was. And so they really got to do it now and they got to hit the ground running. And just what you said, there's so much judgment, and the judgment then creates that stress or worry. Mm-hmm. And then that's what blocks the opportunities from coming. And so then the antidote, as you're talking about it, is to release the judgment, and then the ripple starts to go from there. Is that, do you think that's fair?
Yeah, part of it.
And I would say too, just having watched you, because you said, I've been playing and I've been caretaking, but the reality was, only because I want people to understand, it was 90% caretaking and maybe 10% play, right? During that particular window. So you really needed some downtime. And I think that's something people are missing, is just because you were in isolation, if you were dealing with kids or parents or a partner who needed support from you, or clients or whatever, and you were caretaking, you didn't have downtime.
No.
You may think you did, but you really didn't.
Yeah. Just because you're home more and people are with you and you can't go out does not equal downtime. Absolutely not. In fact, a lot of people probably got less of it because because the kids weren't going off to school, their meditation time was taken away, or they couldn't find the time or the space for it, or going out for the walk, or, going out for wine with their girlfriends. Those Zoom
Yeah.
calls were only fun for so long. So, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think because we're inspired, we're ambitious. And so I think there is a certain level of guilt if we're not hustling, hustling, hustling. And you gotta give yourself a break.
Yes. So that leads me to that beautiful post you just wrote the other day. So what inspired you to write that? And why don't you talk a little bit more about the message you were delivering with that?
Yeah. So what inspired it is I had connected with one of my old mastermind friends back when I lived in Minnesota, and we've known each other 17 years, and she's a keynote speaker. And she said, Carolyn, my schedule, and she does wilderness trips for women, guides. And she said, Carolyn, my schedule for 2020 was so perfectly lined up and then gone, like in days. It's like, woo. And she was trying to figure out ways she could pivot, but she knew she didn't want to effort. She's very, very spiritual, and her whole theme is around like creativity and being wild. And she just didn't want to follow through on a lot of things because it felt like she would be efforting. And so instead, she found herself, she's like, I like getting my hands dirty in the garden. I like taking my dog for long walks. And she said, but then I feel guilty because I'm not working hard enough. And then on the back of that, the next day, I spoke with one of my best friends from high school / college roommate. She's an international event planner for Fortune 500s for executives. Like, it's the high end stuff. And of course that, her business went poof in a snap too. And she said, I don't even want to go near my computer because there's nothing I can do. And she said, I'm treating this as a time for regeneration. So the whole thing that came together through that conversation, those two conversations, is we feel like we need to be effort. Some of us feel like we need to be efforting. And others of us are going like, yeah, I could, but what's it going to do? So I may as well just use the time for myself and use it as a time for regeneration. And so, because when we're pushing, when we're in a desperate mode, that energy, like you said earlier, does not open things up to receive. And so I even think that my hustle, when in the early part of COVID, I'm like, I really have to help people. I need to get this out there because I know that what I do, I can really help people find something that they can monetize very quickly. And I know that people are going to need this. But then my energy, like, I thought my energy was in the right place, and I ended up having a really, really great quarter, but it came from other stuff. And so I kind of wish I would have spent more time in regeneration mode, but I really, really felt compelled, like pulled, like I really felt like I needed to offer that service because not a lot of people can do what not a lot of people see what I can see in a business owner.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's interesting that you say that because I know you and I pretty much have the same feeling about clients in that our preference is to work with people longer term because that's what gets you really sustainable results is when you create the in your case the strategy or the shift, the client implements it, you tweak, and then you support them, and you hold them through that fear and through the the change trajectory. And so that's for a long-term business, that's better.
Yeah.
But I have been seeing that there is benefit. Right now, people are willing to move quickly when they're using fear as their ally, basically. So like fear's got a grip on them, and that's not ideal. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's interesting because when you use that term, using fear as an ally, I don't really like working with people when they're in a place of fear or desperation.
Yeah.
And so just the way you put that just made me go, oh, how interesting. I used to do these mini VIP sessions. I used to call it Money Momentum for people who are coming into my accelerator. And I did it because I wanted to help them find ways to make money very quickly while on the early part of a 6-month accelerator where they could spend time more thoughtfully putting their business together. So this didn't need to be a forever offer. It was something that they liked. It was something that would bring in a lot of money or whatever they needed. We just kind of work out whatever the numbers were for them. And so it really made sense. But one of the things that I think worked really well about it is that we knew we had another 6 months to work together. It wasn't just like, this is it, and then I'm going to walk away. There's probably always a little bit of fear and trepidation. I just don't like desperation.
So yeah. There's definitely a difference.
Energy doesn't work. Yeah.
So you did start doing, you came up with a shorter term offer that has been working really well. And I would think, I mean, we haven't really talked about it, but I would think it's working better this year than it would in other years because people are motivated. Maybe that's the word, is that people are motivated to shift quickly because the world is shifting quickly around them.
Yeah. And it's really hard to see it in a vacuum. You know, you can talk to your friends, but you know, and they know you so well, but they don't necessarily I don't care for flyby coaching when you're creating an offer. I think it is more useful and meaningful and more profitable when you can create something that's really based on that well of assets that you have and experience. And so, and our friends don't necessarily know what all those things are, and kind of the flyby things that you might see. And so, yes, I basically took my old Money Momentum off thing that I used to do as a bonus for my old clients. I've only offered it to the public a couple of times before in the past 7 years that I've done it for my clients. And so I rejudged it just to say, all right, this is what we're going to do. And it's a custom day, you know, rapid fire 30-day VIP. And the whole purpose of it is to go deep, really understand who you are, and then pluck out or create an offer. And, you know, the marketing, the messaging, the sales conversations, like everything around it, and create an offer and put an offer out there that you can monetize right away. And I think some people think it's too good to be true, but I mean, I've had so many success stories that I know it really works. But yeah, and so it's been really fun. One woman who took me up on it, she has a decent business. It's, you know, multiple 6 figures in her case, but she's like, Carolyn, I just don't want to take any more of these types of clients. And because they're wearing my ass out, I want to do something that feels a little lighter and costs a little less. But her profit is much higher. And I mean, we came up with something and she immediately started closing clients. You know, when I say I'm a strategic thought partner, I'm there because I see things and I can see the whole human in a very short amount of time, but I'm not going to do it where we just, you know, pick up the phone, talk for an hour and, you know, like I just guess what might work for you. That is not how I operate. Other people might be good at that, but not me.
Yeah. So, and then how do you think, or I guess I'm going to put the answer in the question, but don't you think that someone needs to really allow themselves the time to regenerate to actually move on a pivot like that?
Yes. And actually, this was the interesting thing, Patty. So I put the offer out. The name of this offer is called Onward, the 30-day VIP. And I put it out in April, I think. I don't think I did a lot of promotion around it. I think it was April. You know, some people took me up on it, but what I really noticed in late June, early July, was it maybe in June or July? I can't remember. My summer has been a little wonky with travel, but all of a sudden I just noticed like whoosh, like this influx of people going, I want this, I want this, I need this, I need this. I'm like, you're gonna have to go on a wait list, because it was almost as if people said, oh, this thing isn't going away. Like,
yeah.
I better do something. And I don't want to invest a whole bunch of money in something. I want to do something that feels a little more approachable. And so I don't know what you've noticed in your business, but in terms of and I've taken a marketing break the last couple of months. So I really haven't done much to promote it. But yeah, I can't remember. I think it was July. I think July is when I really noticed, late June, early July, people just going, whoa, I need you.
Yeah, that's such interesting timing, because back when I was talking to coronavirus, who I now refer to as Zandalia, what she had shown me was the wave of the energy and the distress would kind of crash at the end of June. And then people would sort of pick themselves up at the beginning of July. So it's interesting that was the timing, that it kind of coincided.
Yeah.
And I was I was in the middle of receiving school and then moving into the mastermind. So I actually to that point, I filled the mastermind without advertising it, because people had already come to me. So I actually haven't done any marketing myself either. We're talking about this offer. If you guys want to check it out, you can go to carolynherfurth.com/onward. Is that right? Did I get that link right?
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to see what she's talking about, if this sounds like you. So what do you see? Like, what are you feeling energy wise, either for your business, or what are you expecting for the rest of the year? What's alive for you?
I have spent quite a bit of time feeling into this, and you can look at all the money, and I actually would be very curious to hear what you have to say about this as well. So I think based on what I'm reading, spit it out, Carolyn. The people who are my clients, the multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses, they're the ones who are kind of not jumping into it, investing as quickly, because they've got a little more cushion to kind of wait things out and watch. Some people are moving into action very quickly, but I think we're going to start seeing people making more decisions. Like, they've taken the time to regenerate, which is great, because that's amazing. And I think there's going to start being, and maybe this is just wishful thinking, because I don't like seeing stagnant energy. Like, regeneration, yes, but I want people to keep moving and experimenting and going from a pivot to a pivot to a pivot, because that's what it's putting the energy out in a positive way when you're called to do it, that is going to help us land on our feet as a whole. So I just think there's still a lot of healing, clearly a lot of healing that needs to be done. So I'm expecting a very, very busy fall. And I don't know. That's where I'm at. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about that, though.
Yeah, it's interesting when you said, I'm going to ask you your opinion. I'm like, damn, why am I asking someone a question that I don't know the answer to or have an opinion on? Well, I'm just going to be really transparent. So for everyone, right, our intuition only works when I've talked about this so much, when our amygdala is powered down, right? And our amygdala powers up when it's in stress situations or fear and that type of thing. So I will admit it could be partially stress that's causing me to be unable to tap into an energy system. But the one energy I see is that things are clear, relatively clear, in terms of getting communication out and understood and heard. So that would be if you're trying to interview for a job, if you're putting marketing out, what I see is it's relatively clear from about the second week of September until the third week of October. And then it gets very congested. And then I see a huge celebration in around the third week of November, second to third week of November. Celebratory energy. Yeah, I know. I'm not going to put any attachments on for what that might be. But, for me, and I'll just say this for you, if you're listening and you've got kids, they've changed our return to school plan 3 times so far. And so until those suckers are sitting in a schoolroom with their butts in a seat, which is 2 weeks away, I don't have like the ability to reach for forward thinking. I mean, my marketing plan, because it's based on receiving school, is pretty much mapped out. It wasn't going to change. When I launched during COVID, the content changed, but I didn't change the date of it. And I still feel kind of aligned with, I think that what I teach about opening to receiving, people are going to be eager to understand, okay, I can't control so much. So, can I open up to letting in more help from the universe? So I feel good about it, but that's just my business hat on. It's not like intuitively I'm like, yeah, I'm going to nail this launch. I do not feel that at all, because I'm like, I am like, until those chillins are out of my house, I literally can't think straight. Right. So
love you, kids.
What?
Love you, kids.
I do. I love them. Both are like, I can't wait to get back to school. Like this is not because I don't like them. This is because this is like lack of structure is just weighing on my brain cells, which I think also speaks to, wrapping back around what you do. Why I think what you do is so desired right now is you're giving people a container when they can't hold that container for themselves. In the Onward program, like they have got the energy, they've got the desire, but they're so structureless in their day-to-day life that trying to create a container to see a future is harder than it usually is. And so then you help them with that.
Yeah. And I think just being asked the right questions, which is what you and I do, right, is just asking the questions so that the person can sort through it, because you're right, it's just like this endless summer where, do I want to go to the beach? I'll just go whenever I feel like it. I'll go to the pool whenever it's like I think it is important. And, some people can't wait it out any much longer, and so the regeneration is a key part of all of this. And so when you're starting to feel that itch or that urge to say, okay, how am I going to take this 2020 back? How am I going to reclaim my 2020? That is, then you're in a spot of being open to possibilities. And possibilities are what make, just coming up with ideas and possibilities for what you can do and what you can offer right now that people want and that people need, and people don't know they need, but when they see it, they'll be like, oh my God, I didn't even know. It's out there. I think there's still opportunity. I think some people might think that everyone's just zipped up their wallets, but I'm telling you what, I have invested a hell of a lot in my business in the past 6 months. I have not stopped investing. I've probably invested more because I feel like I've had a little more free time to study or, dig into something that I wouldn't have done before. I've hired different coaches for strategy. Like, I'm not stopping. And I don't know if it's because of my specific situation. Well, of course it's because of my specific situation, but I don't think anyone needs to feel guilty if they haven't been leaning on someone else to help them through this. Everyone's doing the best they can.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that whole thing about whatever you did the best you could with what you had. Right up until this moment that you're listening to this, you have done the very best you can with what you have. So now you just heard some ideas, but maybe some of them were ones you were thinking. Maybe some of them are new ideas. Now you have new information. So what are you going to do with that information going forward? Are you going to forgive yourself? Are you going to pause? Are you going to let yourself finally rest so you can actually regenerate? Are you going to start working towards a pivot? What is it that this is telling you to do? And not the should, but like, what's the one that deep down in your soul is the right next step for you? That's really, as a listener, that's what I invite you to do as you've listened to Carolyn. And Carolyn, tell them where they can get more of you, my love.
I welcome anyone to visit my website. Everything is very simple with me. Everything is Carolyn Herfurth. So it's carolynherfurth.com. So my website, Instagram, Carolyn Herfurth, LinkedIn, Carolyn Herfurth, everything's Carolyn Herfurth all the way through. So I am assuming in show notes, you'll have that spelled out, but it's CarolynHerfurth as in Frank, URTH.
And yes, we will have all of that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, and I welcome, even if someone wants to reach out and email me, I welcome it. I'm not sitting up on top of some mountain, sitting out on my patio on the Upper West Side these days, which is awesome. I love that I'm back out of my summer office, but I'm just happy to have a quick conversation with anyone who just feels compelled to reach out in that way.
That's awesome. Thank you. So any last words of wisdom you want to leave our listeners with?
Just hold it lightly. Just be gentle and know that it's okay to experiment. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing's perfect right now. And I think we don't know what's going to work until we get out there and try and experiment. So I think some people still might be in a place of feeling frozen, not from a regeneration standpoint, but don't know what in the hell to do standpoint. Again, that's okay, but also give yourself permission to just play and experiment and try things out and know that if it doesn't work or if it only partly works, it's information for your next step.
Oh, such good information. Such good inspiration. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for being here.
Thanks for inviting me, Patty.
And thank you for listening. You have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone. Hey, thanks for listening. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, please share this podcast with them. And if you're feeling really generous, I'd love for you to leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. It helps us reach many more people, and it fills my heart with so much joy when I hear what you had to say about what you heard. I am cheering for your success. Have an amazing day.